Sausage.
Hello everyone, this is Attack the Backlog, the podcast where I, Marc tries to make a dent in their backlog one game at a time. This episode is all about Donut County, the game where you control a hole and make it bigger by filling it with shit. Quite the oxymoron if I don't say so myself. In fact, it was originally called Bizarro Butthole, but the developers thought that might give people the wrong impression and decided to go with Donut County instead. Whether or not that was the right decision, who's to know? What I do know is Donut County originally came out for iOS, PC, and PS4 on August 28th, 2018 before making its way to Switch and Xbox One on December 18th of that same year. Not to be outdone or ignored, the game also made its way to Android 2 years later on December 1st, 2020, leaving everyone with one question. When's the Stadia version coming out, baby? This is, of course, not very timely because I wrote this script before Stadia basically said, we done. Anywho, Donut County is basically reverse Katamari. Instead of rolling a bumbleball-like device around, collecting objects in order to make your ball bigger and bigger, Donut County has you moving a hole around, swallowing up objects in order to make your hole bigger and bigger until you're big enough to swallow every last object in an area, buildings and mountains included. It's a fun idea and implemented well, but at no fault of the developer, it's impossible to play Donut County without thinking of Katamari, in large part because the gameplay and visual aesthetic are so similar. While Donut County is fun and an overall good time, it can't compete with Katamari, especially on the big screen, meaning your mileage will vary depending on how much love you have for Katamari and how good you are at playing games in a bubble where comparisons don't exist. And if you've been yelling at me this whole time saying, you keep going on and on about this Katamari game and I don't know what the hell you're talking about. One, I did an Attack the Backlog episode on Katamari Damacy Reroll, the remake of the first game in the series. Check it out if you missed it originally. And two, that's probably a good thing because then you can go into Donut County without any baggage, and you definitely collect a lot of baggage while playing Katamari games. I'm talking about in-game briefcases and the like. It was a joke. Don't look at me like that. What can I say? Donut County on me for jokes. Jokes aside, I at least did struggle to not constantly think of Katamari while playing Donut County. So much so that I almost rebought Katamari Damacy Reroll on Xbox One despite already owning it on Switch, as well as owning an original copy for PS2. The gameplay of Donut County is fun in its own right with its twist on the Katamari formula, but, and this is the bigger problem, the brief nature of pretty much every level makes it hard to ever get into a groove. I may be remembering things wrong, but I'm pretty sure there were multiple levels that took less than a minute to complete. Whether or not this is the actual case, Donut County feels very much like a mobile game first and foremost. Now, I don't think that's a bad thing or means it should only be available on mobile devices. If that's the case, I think every game should do what it can to make it accessible to as many potential players as possible. But something is lost when playing the game on a big screen in two sittings as opposed to playing it in bite-sized chunks on a phone or tablet. The cracks in the foundation start to show and it quickly becomes apparent that there isn't much there. Because levels are so short and relatively small, everything becomes tedious almost immediately as you follow the same setup over and over and over again of playing a level and then getting thrown back into the hole for some story content with overly cheeky dialogue I quickly grew tired of. Rinse and repeat. The thing is, I don't know what changes could be made to make Donut County go from good to great. The game is at its best when it has you using something you swallowed in order to interact with another object, or when things you swallow interact with each other inside the hole. This includes swallowing up some fire in order to send a hot air balloon flying, using your catapult, a feature you have access to in a few levels to shoot creatures and objects up into the sky, or, and this is my favorite, having you collect pairs of animals so they can do the dirty deed inside your hole and make it bigger and bigger from the inside. That last bit sounded terrible without context, but I think that describes me pretty well. Terrible without context. Donut County took me 2 sittings of about 45 minutes each in order to finish, and I felt pretty empty during both, kind of like a donut hole. Get it? Because donuts? County? I wanted to love my time with Donut County, but its designed for mobile trappings and its inability to compete with Katamari ultimately let it down. I loved the look of it, enjoyed the music, and had a decent enough time playing it, but I love the look of Katamari more. I enjoy the music of Katamari way more, and I enjoy playing Katamari more, even though it's trickier to control, and maybe that's Donut County's real flaw. It's just too simple and straightforward, and the stakes are too low for its own good. There's no timer pressuring you to complete a level, no goal other than swallowing up everything you can see, and nothing to do once you've played every level outside of going after whatever achievements/trophies you missed. It doesn't ask much from you and, in return, makes it hard to give much back. Donut County isn't a bad game, it's just an underwhelming and forgettable one, kind of like most donuts. I kid. Donuts can be quite delicious, and to make donut enthusiasts everywhere hate me, if you asked me what my favorite donut was, I'd say the chocolate frosted munchkins from Dunkin' Donuts, because I'm basic like that.
People kept telling my mother I looked like a munchkin. Well, this is what a munchkin looks like.
Donut County on me for good taste in donuts, but do count on me for using the same joke twice, even though once was already way too much. Anyway, that will do it for this here episode of Attack the Backlog. Once again, I am Marc. Y'all can find me on Twitter and pretty much everywhere at PXSausage. The site is, of course, pixelatedsausage.com, where you can find this podcast, the Pixelated Sausage Podcast, and Unamazingly Baka, all of which are available on podcast services across the globe. You can also check out the video version of this show if you aren't already over at youtube.com/pixelatedsausage. Please like, subscribe, do all that jazz if you haven't already. It's very much so appreciated and does help out a lot. And of course, you can check out the art I make back on the site. That is again pixelatedsausage.com, and if you see something you like, you can purchase a print of the piece you fancy. And if you fancy the site in general and anything that we do, please go over to patreon.com/pxs and support us that way. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoy this here episode, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.
Ow.